Hello everybody! Infinite Shinjo here, and welcome back to the next episode of Let's Talk Anime. And as always, I got 3 suggestions, topics, whatever, to talk about in this video, so without any further ado, let's get into it. The first topic, which is probably going to take a bigger percentage of this episode because I have a lot more to mention with it, is Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions. Or as I'm going to call it in this video, L-Code. So the basic plot of it is there's this thing called Chunibyo, or as it's also called 8th grader syndrome. And it's basically when children get to that stage in life where they try to act grown up. And they even mentioned in the first episode that it's kind of like when kids drank coffee. I know that I did that when I was younger. And even pretending to wield supernatural powers. You know, usual stuff like that. One of the main characters is Togashi, and he recently got out of his little Chunibyo phase of being Dark Flame Master, which is pretty self-explanatory what he basically does as Dark Flame Master. After he comes out of this phase, as he calls it, he decides to move to a new high school where nobody knows about that, and basically tries to start over. But in the very first episode, he meets the other main character, Takanashi, and that is where things get interesting. I'm not going to spoil anything that happens in it. I'm going to try and keep it as spoiler free as possible, just on the off chance somebody hasn't watched it yet. But when you boil it down to it, L-Code is more or less just a slice of life show. It does have an overarching plot, but there are very few episodes that I've seen that have any real bearing on the plot. Most of it is just the characters in different situations. And from what I've seen, there is a lot of content involving L-Code, because there is Season 1, there is Season 2, and there are apparently little shorts. I didn't watch them, I only watched Season 1 and Season 2, so if it's worth it to watch the little shorts, then I might, but if not, I probably won't worry about it. But since I explained what the show is about, let me explain what I liked and what I disliked about it. The things that I liked is, from the very start of it, when I was learning about Chunibyo, what exactly it is in this world, I immediately thought, okay, so this is kind of that angsty stage that every teenager goes through, especially in Togashi's case. I mean, a name like Dark Flame Master, that sounds like somebody's username. And on the topic of Chunibyo, Takanashi's version of it is a lot more innocent and reminds me of the huge imagination that I had when I was younger. This is especially more prevalent in Season 1, that for me, the Chunibyo characters like Takanashi, Dekamori, it never comes across as mean or just trying to make fun of the other characters that don't have Chunibyo. And of course, I can't bring up the Chunibyo without mentioning the action scenes that come along with it. Because there are times in the series where they could just as easily show what's literally happening with Takanashi's whole Eye of the Wicked Lord thing, Dekamori's Mjolnir hammer. They could just as easily show it for what it is, but they show the extent of the battle. They show their imaginations running wild, and I love that. Now, the things that I didn't like about it is, I guess as a broad spectrum of it, to start, I was not a big a fan of Season 2. Honestly, I could have just watched Season 1 and then not even bother with Season 2, and I wouldn't really miss much, because Season 2 is basically one huge thing, which I'm not going to spoil here. But to go in a little bit of detail on what I didn't like, to start, I didn't like the scenes where everybody is focusing on what's happening with Togashi and Takanashi. Now, I guess outside watching it, it makes sense because they're the main characters, but it just feels like they're being nosy a lot of the time, and I did not like that. And of course, the biggest offender of this is Nibutani. Now, Nibutani's character in Season 1 was just like, okay, she used to have Chunibyo, now she doesn't, and the whole point of her character is her basically threatening everybody that finds out that she was Mori Summer in the past. But then Season 2, she joined on the bandwagon of focusing on what's going on with Togashi and Takanashi, and I really wasn't a fan of her character. Every other main character, I could find something that I liked about them, but not really with Nibutani. Now, I do admit that there were 2 episodes in Season 2 that kind of changed my mind about her, especially when Kumin mentioned that she actually cares a lot for her friends. But that was Season 2. I would have preferred for something like that to be mentioned in Season 1, because if you're trying to develop a character like Nibutani, which kind of went backwards as far as character development in my opinion in Season 1, it's kind of weird to throw something 2 important moments in Season 2 that kind of change her character, but then she just goes back to what she was like before. I don't know. There's just something about Nibutani that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Let me know if you watched L Code, if you like Nibutani's character, if you could care less about it. Honestly, and this is just me being brutally honest, they probably could have taken out Nibutani's character, and I would have liked the show a little bit more. But that's enough of me ripping apart L Code, so let's get into the next topic, which is Smile Precure Doki Doki, or Glitter Force Doki Doki in the dub. I actually watched the dub for only one reason, but I'll get into that later. So basically what the plot of it is, there's this magical world where everybody lives with this princess named Marie Angelica, and these mercenaries attack the kingdom, and Marie Angelica goes missing, I think? I don't know. I just wrote this down from Wikipedia and I didn't want to write it word for word. But apparently this warrior goes to the human world to try and find this princess, and I guess that's just kind of like the lore of it, I suppose. But basically there's this group of pixies that need to find these chosen girls that can transform and hoping to save the kingdom. I guess it's that whole, you're the destined chosen one, whatever, you gotta save the kingdom, the world, whatever. Now, I only watched the first episode, but the things that I liked is, I like how they introduced Maya as a character that just wants to help everybody, because when you're bringing a character like that, and a concept like that, it could come across as kind of nosy. It could come across as somebody that's just like, I have to help you, otherwise I won't feel good about myself. But with Maya, you could tell that she genuinely wants to help people and she's not doing it out of her own gain. And the next thing that I liked is, I like how the evil inside of people creates these monsters. I only watched episode 1, so I'm only sure I'm scratching the surface on this. But I just feel like there's something poetic with the evil inside of man creating these evil monsters. And now the reason that I watched the dub of it is the main character, Maya, is the same voice of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. And the more that I watched through episode 1, the more I heard Jimmy Neutron. Now, some people might consider that a bad thing, but I honestly laughed when I was watching that. I know I've mentioned this many times before, but I just love it when I'm watching an anime, a show, whatever, and I hear a voice actor, and I recognize the voice actor from something else that I watched. I just like that, especially with old Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, because Kaiba, Brock, and James were all the same English voice actor. Now, the things that I didn't like about it, now keep in mind I only watched the first episode, so I'm sure that there is a lot more that either I would like or dislike later, but I wasn't really a fan of having the words Doki Doki be Maya's secret word in the dub. From the very little Japanese that I know, I'm pretty sure that Doki translates to heart. And it's just kind of weird for me to hear a dub use a Japanese word. Although I suppose it is easier than having her say heart, heart. Now the other thing that was kind of iffy for me is when you get right down to it, the concept of the show is so very cheesy. Because it's just like magical girls, evil, saving the world, stuff like that. Literally any show that you would watch, any kids show that you would watch, has more or less the same concept. But even so, I still enjoy watching the first episode, especially Maya's character, because I just love how kind of sassy that she was at times. I can't remember any instances that she was sassy at the moment, but I can remember that there were times when I was watching it that she just came across as a bit smart aleck, and I just love that, especially from a main character. But with Doki Doki talked about and taken care of, it's time to get into the last topic of the day, and that is Pokemon Sun and Moon Episode 72. Now, with shows like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Or any other anime that I'm currently watching, I would be fine with mentioning a specific episode, and somebody mentioned for me to bring up Episode 72. At the moment, I can't remember why. Maybe they liked the episode that much and wanted to hear my thoughts on it, but I'm more than happy to talk about episodes of Pokemon because there are a lot of episodes that I've watched recently that I really want to talk about, so I might incorporate them into later videos. But the basic plot of this episode is Mallow's brother Ulu returns from his cooking journey, I guess, and there's this competition and they decide to enter. So more or less like the Pancake Race episode, except different, and different characters are involved. The things that I liked about the episode is it was a really good episode for me to watch, even though you would argue that it's filler. Well, no arguing about it, it is filler. But I just love how, I know I'm talking about episode 72 here, but I could easily say this for the whole of Sun and Moon so far. I like how they use old Pokemon. Like this episode featured a Lickitung. And I like how in Sun and Moon so far, they're using Pokemon for one-off filler episodes that some might forget about. Although ironically at the moment I can't think of another episode like that, but I'm sure there is one. And the other thing that I liked is my heart broke for Ulu at the very end of the episode. I suppose it's not really that much of a spoiler to mention it, but basically Ulu entered this competition to try and impress a girl. And he won, but he found out at the end that she was engaged to somebody else. And that just broke my heart. I've never been in a situation like that, but I know the feeling of rejection, so I felt for Ulu on that one. Now the things I didn't like is I really wish that Mallow's brother would have stayed at the end of the episode, because at the end of the episode he just leaves to go off on his cooking journey again. And I would have liked it if he would have stayed for at least a couple more episodes. I mean, Ilima had his debut and he stayed around for a couple of episodes, so I don't see why Ulu couldn't have done the same. Now, even though this episode was filler, I do still think that the ending was super predictable. And I know that you would argue, but Shinjo, it's a filler episode. Mallow and company had to win because they're the main characters. And I guess that is true, except for the fact that the Pancake Race episode exists. Like I mentioned earlier, this episode is similar to the Pancake Race episode. There's a competition, and the main characters enter. The only difference in the Pancake Race episode is Team Rocket are there, dressed up in a Beware costume, I believe, and Beware jumps in right when Meowth and Wobbuffet are about to win, and Beware takes off their disguise and basically sends them all back to the hideout. Pikachu and Alolan Raichu are shocked. Meanwhile, Kamala is just rolling around and Kamala ends up winning. And I would have liked to see something like that happen in this episode as well, because it's just so predictable that Mallow and Ulu and their father end up winning the competition. I would have liked to see something like what they did in the Pancake Race episode for this episode as well, but who knows, they might have another competition-based filler episode later on that follows the same concept. The thing that I like with Sun and Moon is they take concepts like Passimian playing football, I think it was, whatever it was, and Pikachu and Ash going to an island. They take these filler concepts and make them enjoyable enough to watch that you still remember them. I still remember them. But that is going to do it for today's episode. Let me know what you think about L-Code, what you think about Smile Precure Doki Doki, and what you think about Pokemon Sun and Moon episode 72. Heck, let me know what you think about Sun and Moon as a whole, because I know that I'm going to be talking about a couple of other episodes later on, but I just need to write out the notes for it. Leave any suggestions that you have down in the comment section and I will get to them when I have time. But that is going to be it for this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Have an awesome day, everybody. Bye bye, yes.